So after this show last night, we had a clip drop from Tucker Carlson, an exchange between him and Ted Cruz, and of course, as X reacts, X reacts. And of course, at first I said Ted Cruz is a clown because Ted Cruz is usually a clown. I mean, he's the guy who thought he was going to go toe-to-toe with Trump in 2016, and then he pretty much has groveled at his feet ever since. And it's really, like I said, the apex, the climax of this MAGA internal conflict, which I think will have long-term ramifications that many people are not taking into account. Because the pro do whatever it takes to make sure Iran does not have a nuclear weapon crowd, which most of those people will say, yeah, we don't want new wars, but Iran can't have nukes because they're bad people. It reeks of WMDs in Iraq. And I know now you even had Greg Gutfeld, when I wish I had this clip. Greg Gutfeld comes out and says, guys, we need to put everything else behind us and just trust the plan, essentially, with Trump. No, it's not because I don't trust Trump. I trust Trump about as much as I trust any other politician, but I understand that the entire deep state around him is who I do not trust. I don't trust the pentagram for any of these kinds of things. So 5 takeaways from this interview. So Tucker Carlson published a 2-hour interview with Ted Cruz on Wednesday, during which the two conservative firebrands debated Trump's foreign policy, the future of the Middle East, and America's place in the world. The conversation was decidedly contentious, at times deteriorating into shouting and insults, punctuated by a short clip of that Carlson published, which we'll watch in a second, showing him quizzing Cruz on Iran's population, which everybody has been arguing about. Everybody has been, and these ads are ridiculous. Can I get rid of this? No, I can't. I got to watch your stupid ads. And this is the crux of everybody's debate all day today that sent us into yet another round. If you haven't seen it by now, here it is.
I don't know the population.
Let's go back.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population.
So, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop this and go. I'm going to assume that most of you have seen this. And, Gerald from Louder with Crowder. I like the Louder with Crowder guys. I watch their show every day. I'm a member of Rumble. I'm a member of Rumble Premium. I support everything they do. I think they're great for free speech. Totally wrong on this one. Why do you need to know the population of the area? Why do you need to know the population of it? Generally, it's good to have a basic Google search understanding of the general population and the dynamics of a country you seek to get involved with militarily. It just is. Okay, these things are your basic information, especially we've had Iran in our sights for 40 plus years. And I have a clip for that I'm actually going to get out right now. We've had for 40 plus years, in particular, since 2007, we've had our eye on Iran. Iran is the last country that these United States has been looking to overthrow. We absolutely want to do it. We've been desperate to do so. And the idea that we're just talking about Iran now and we've never done any background work and we don't have pre-plans to invade Iran. And that was my response to a bunch of people today. They said, how do you think there's any idea that we're going to invade Iran? Well, the idea is this. I'm pretty sure that we've been talking anywhere in government. They have been talking about invading Iran. Listen to this 1 minute and 30-second clip from 2007. This is General.
We're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iran.
This is General Wesley Clark.
And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon, and one of the generals called me and he said, sir, you got to come in. You got to.
So this is in 2007. We're going all the way back to 2001. Okay. There are 24 years now.
come in and talk to me a second. I said, well, you're too busy. He said, no. He says, we've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. And he said,
and so when I say that these guys
From the
need
country
to have
you
an
see.
idea of, when you ask what's the population of Iran, and Ted Cruz is like, I don't know what it is. You guys have been talking about this for 24 years. There has been plans on the deck for 24 years. There's been one, just like how the Patriot Act kind of came out of nowhere. That's because there were 4 different plans that they pretty much streamed together in the wake of 9/11. That's how the Patriot Act, it was 4 different bills that they were able to wrap in together, call it the Patriot Act, and now you're getting molested at airports. So this idea that we don't have an invested interest, or we don't have a desire to go into Iran, is foolish. The joke in Trump's first term was John Bolton wanted to go in for no reason. And yes, Mark, I get it. The Iranians are not good people. They have killed Americans. They are not good people. But what is the saying? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. What have people been saying about Iraq in the last couple years? Gee, Saddam was actually pretty good at keeping all those groups together. And we really didn't get a lot out of going in there and toppling him, did we? You can look, I don't think the Iraq conflict, Operation Iraqi Freedom, was very successful. And I don't think we spent an inordinate amount of time, blood, and treasure to do what? So I think it is a valid question. Do you have a Google search basic knowledge of a country that you want to blow up and overthrow? And by the way, it's understandably, for those of you that are coming in now, the reason why I'm worried about this is because I have a feeling that Trump is being presented with a solution under his unconditional surrender and permanent solution, or a real solution concept, that the only way to ensure a real solution in Iran is with a regime change. I know everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. And by the way, if there is no regime change and in 10 days this all works out and there's nothing happening, I will be the happiest man here. I will praise Trump for getting this deal done, because he is threading through the eye of a needle right now between blowing up Iran and trying to get a deal done. But I don't think he can do it anymore, because I think the Israelis launched the strike to drag us into this. And now they're expanding. Oh, what about the proxies in October 7th and all these other kinds of things that happened? Why don't we need to take them out? Why didn't the Israelis blow the Iranians off the map on October 8th? They launched a bunch of missiles and they called it a day. So that, by my definition, that whole thing is closed. That does not count in this lead up. Not the Louder with Crowder guys were lumping in October 7th with this. October 7th happened. They exchanged missiles. And then that was it. So guess what? That is a closed chapter of that conflict. They did it. They responded. That's it. And then there's been a couple things. One side launches, one side starts, the other side launches missiles, and that's it. They're expanding out the case to say, we need to go in. We need to take out the Iranians. Iranians can't have a nuke. I don't think they should have a nuke either. Not with a crazy Islamic leader. I'll give you that. But there's got to be other ways. They haven't gotten a weapon in 40 years. They have not gotten one in 40 years. And a lot of the podcast media has turned around really quick. And that's also a great point, Mark. Who does have nukes in this situation? The Iranians don't have nukes. The Israelis do. It's called the Samson option. They brag about it. Well, we'll use the Samson option if anything happens. So also, if and that's why my fear with this whole thing, 90 million Iraqis who fought tooth and nail in the 10-year Iraq war, they fought to the death in that war. And they were unencouraged. And didn't we help the Iraqis in that war? Did we assist Iraq in the Iraq? Ooh, my spelling is bad. Iran war. I think we did. I think we provided assistance to the Iraqis during the Iran-Iraq war. And yet the Iranians fought to the death in that conflict. So yes, it's important to know how many people are in there, because when we're forced to put boots on the ground for your ultimate solution or your unconditional surrender to occupy the nuke sites and the oil fields and Tehran, that's going to have to be a thing, because all 90 million of them, they're believers. And I know Ted Cruz has another part in this interview we don't have, where he says, oh, well, the Iranian people will rise up. Doesn't that sound a lot like they'll greet us as liberators? Or the Arab Spring that Obama was really happy to just sit back and let happen? Yeah, we talked about it before you came in, Cesare. Putin has come in, and I'm sure he has, and he said, listen, Putin has said, listen, if you destabilize Iran, it's going to be awful for everybody. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So that's my first retort to Gerald, who's not listening, and I get it. And he did go back and forth with me, and I do appreciate it. He took the time to at least respond to my post. And everybody that's saying it's such a gotcha question to ask about the amount of people in Iran. If we are entrusting these 100 senators from these 50 states with the power to authorize the U.S. military, because guess what? I know a lot of people, Mark Levin's one of them, thinks we don't have to have Congress pass a resolution to go to war. We still kind of technically do. I know you have the authorized military use of force doctrines, but if you're giving these 100 senators the keys to the most powerful military on this planet, I think they should know something. I think they can't go, I don't know, and then it'd be completely washed away. And that was a problem I had with a couple people I had some exchanges with today. Well, why do they need to know the population? Because they're supposed to be our betters. They're supposed to be representing us. And if they're going to be doing these kinds of things, they should have some kind of knowledge, except Iranian are bad. And we know, Ted, $1.8 million Cruz from APAC. Anyway, here's the rest of it. Let's just reset, because I've been talking for a minute.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay.
And I know Crowder was like, well, that's a question. Even if you said 100 million, he would have said no. I actually don't think that. I think if Ted was like, I think it's around 100 million, Tucker would have said, yeah, you're close. It's 92. And that would have been it with that. At least there's some kind of basic knowledge. What the hell, and I'm sorry for cussing, do these people do all day in Congress? What do they do?
Yeah, how could you not know that? I don't sit around
Why are we giving elected officials a pass on not knowing things? He's on there, and him and 52 senators, right? Ted Cruz with Ted Cruz and Republicans back Israel with letter. I think there's something, him and 52 others actively supported it. 10 other senators stating the U.S. would fundamentally reevaluation. He said multiple times that we need to, and he said a majority of Republican senators in Congress support Israel. If you're going to make that claim, you got to have a basic knowledge of stuff.
Summarizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
And this is another, it's a gotcha question. What does it matter? It just matters that they're Shiite. It matters because if it's not 100% Shiite, you're getting civil war. And also, just because the majority is Shiite doesn't mean that every single one of them is on board. You get rid of the leader who's holding everything together. There's going to be a power grab, just like in Afghanistan. Did the Afghanis follow the installed leader that we put in there? By the way, that guy was super corrupt. Did they follow him? No, they did not. He was feckless and useless. And by the way, who's in control of Afghanistan now? That's right, the Taliban. Took 4 presidents to get the Taliban out and the Taliban back in. So, and in Syria too, 100%. You guys are getting where I'm going, and I understand you guys are pretty much on the same line of thinking that I am. Like, what are you doing here?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even. You don't know anything about Iran, so
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
And let me just
senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
And they're making fun of the Tucker laugh. Yeah, maybe that's a little cringy, but the point still stands. You people are trying to convince President Trump to go in and blow up a country, and you can't give another reason except Israel wants it. If you're going to engage in this, which is going to cost billions of dollars and millions of American lives, then what? Then can you at least vocalize some ideas? And yes, we're going to be greeted as liberators. The country's going to rise up and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. We've heard this speech before. But Greg Gutfeld tells us we should put all that aside and just trust Trump. I don't trust any politician. And I don't trust anybody that tells me to trust a politician.
I don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
Who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump?
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help.
Now, Crowder and a bunch of other guys came in and said, listen, we've been helping them for a while, so this isn't any breaking news. I think that might be a bit of a cop-out because there's a difference in protecting, right? We were assisting in shooting down some of the missiles and things like that and whatever. But actually, offensive strikes?
I said Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
High
stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. I think it is. If you're gonna let the cat out of the bag, then you should know these kinds of things. And Trump has gone out today and said, I don't have any of those clips. I should have, but he said, I've talked to Trump, or I've talked to the Iranians. They're talking to me. The Iranians have requested multiple times now that they'd like to sit down and talk with Trump in D.C. Trump said before he would meet with anybody without preconditions. Why the change now? If there's a possibility for peace, why the change now? I still believe Trump is a peace president. I believe he is backed into a corner because the Israelis fired off that attack without. He may have agreed to it. I don't think he agreed to the actual start time. It's being reported that he agreed to it now, right? With this article right here, that he agreed to it. And I think this is just cover. I think this is just cover. Like, oh yeah, I knew it and I approved of it. That, because he doesn't want to throw anybody off the stage. And secondly, he doesn't want to appear weak, because the word comes out that Bibi just launched this strike without telling them, he would appear weak and feeble. And Trump does not want to do that. So he's like, fine, I did it. I approved of it. But there's something here from the Jerusalem Post that scares me to death, because this is to the people who say nobody is calling for boots on the ground. It's from the Jerusalem Post today. And I get it's an opinion piece, but there is a lot of thought behind this. There's a lot of thought in the places where Trump listens to and in the halls of power that they want to dismantle the regime. And he lays out his case. What is the first thing that this person, he needs to take decisive action with Iran, embrace the regime change as policy. People are arguing that the regime change should be embraced as policy. That's why I am arguing do whatever it takes to avoid a conflict, because we are going to get dragged into a regime change. Because let's say it'll start with bombers, like Mark's been telling us really correctly in the chat, right? We got bunker buster bombs and all these other kinds. Let's say we just wipe the floor with them. By the way, RIPs to the last Tomcats out there ever. Just awful. Just to see the Franken-cats be destroyed. How Tom Cruise is going to get home, we'll never know. But this idea that it's going to stop there, the idea is once the bombing starts, that's blood in the water. I believe that is blood in the water. Meaning, well, now that we've blown up all the sites, Mr. President, how are we going to make sure that the Iranians don't rebuild them? And there it is. We need to embrace the regime changes policy to ensure that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon ever again. Mark Levin may be a psycho screaming on TV right now, but there are a lot of people that agree with him. Not the public, not a majority of the people that voted for Trump with no new wars. And people are once again conflating, oh, well, they have now married, and Crowder and his team have done this as well. They have married the idea of Iran not getting a nuke with, we have to take military action. It's too late. Negotiations are done. They're bombing everybody. Everything's happening. We have to go. The Iranians, they had 60 days, and so they said no, so let's attack them. It is breathtaking, the speed at which this thing has changed from, I don't think Trump wants to get into any kind of war with Iraq. This was Monday. Your pundits were saying, I don't think we need to go into a conflict with Iraq. It has now changed dramatically to Iran can't have a nuke by any means necessary. That's essentially what the policy is now, by any means necessary. And it's frightening. It's frightening that this is now the idea that they're going with. And you have articles in the Jerusalem Post, and people are like, who cares about the Jerusalem Post? The people in Israel are demanding it. There are signs all over, Mr. President, finish the job. They're begging for the U.S. to go in. And there is an outsized influence of the Israeli government has an outsized influence in the Trump administration. Not to Trump himself, but the Trump administration. And it's not fair, and I don't want to, it's not a correct assumption. I don't want to say fair because the only fair is up in Dallas. It is not a correct assumption for people like me or Alex Jones or even somebody like Posibic, but I don't know if he's turned tail on this or not, and others who have said, listen, you can't go to war with Iran. You can't, or we're just going to bomb them. You can't, if you take even that, even if you take a decisive back roll, even if you do that, that means your foreign policy. I said it last night. I'll say it again if you're here for the first time. If you do this, if you support Iran with airstrikes, your foreign policy is being dictated by another country. And it's not because I hate the Jews or any of these other things. It's the Israeli government that I'm talking about here. The Israeli government is trying to drag the U.S. into a war, and I think they got Trump in a position where it's going to be hard for him to say no at this point. They've pre-positioned assets. They've moved things away from other theaters to focus exclusively on Iran. And people are coming after Tucker as if he's some kind of isolationist. I don't think Tucker's an isolationist. I think most of us don't want to get bogged down in another war in the Middle East. Pakistan has nukes. North Korea has nukes. Trump was more than happy to talk to the North Koreans. The North Koreans are launching missiles into the sea every other day. Right? At first it was, oh, the Israelis are doing it. The Israelis can handle it. It went from the Israelis can handle this to we need the U.S. to come to step in. We need your military assets. We need the Moab. We need to get into these bunkers and blow up these sites. If you allow the Israelis to do that, then your foreign policy has been dictated by another country. It's that simple. And I believe, and some people are like, well, do you trust the Iranians? Is any other country going to trust us if it is true that Trump knew that the Israelis were going to attack and still try to talk peace with Iran? Right? Is any other country going to go into negotiations with the United States knowing this information that, oh, well, they said they were going to do this with the Iranians and they let Israel off the chain to bomb them? Now, some people are like, yeah, that means we walk soft and carry a big stick. I think that's bad policy. Oh, yeah. You want to solidify a base, this uprising that they're bragging about? Start bombing the crap out of Iran with U.S. jets. They will coalesce around their leaders so quickly, it will not even be funny. That's what you were saying before. Post-Iraq, 10 plus years, we're like, man, Saddam actually kind of had that whole place under control, didn't he? He did. Gaddafi had Libya under control, didn't he? Yet, we went into these places. Yet we decided that we were going to spread democracy, quote unquote, because I guess we just need gay pride parades in Tehran. We absolutely need them. We need same-sex marriage in Iran. And so it's dangerous and I don't like it. And I think it is not great policy for. And it's not great that the MAGA base has been infighting. This could have been a fine debate, but it's become something where we're like, hey, we don't want any new foreign wars. Where they're going to get a nuke if you're too much of a wuss to do anything about it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, and as a Catholic especially, I don't believe in it. It won't be a just war. Now, Protestants and evangelicals and everybody else can beat me up for saying, oh, just war is not a right thing, blah, 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 and so forth. So it is what it is. And imagine that. Brian, what I've been saying too is, let's say you take out the leader of Iran. You've got 90 million people. You're going to have a power vacuum. So there will be infighting. There will be a civil war. They will not listen to the U.S. installed leader or the Western backed leader. They just won't, because they'll see him as a pawn for the U.S. You'll have that. You'll have a refugee crisis again that will spread into Europe. Israel won't take any any refugees. They'll spread them out everywhere else. The Middle East won't take them like they won't. They haven't taken any of the other ones. And they're like, well, the Saudis have come out and they said they don't want Iran to have a nuke. Yeah, I get all that. I get all that. I do. But there can be a way to put pressure on them to not do it. But the coalition wants a war. They're using their influencers to push you into thinking that if you don't agree with it, that Iran's going to get a nuke and they're going to blow up Times Square. And it's just one of these things that is absolutely diabolical. And the Tucker v. Ted argument last night was the climax of this, where both sides have staked their position. And even Steve Bannon's we'll back the president on whatever he does. I won't. If there is any kind of military action in Iran, I will never vote in an election again at the federal level. Because it is proof that they're all compromised. And I am actually giving Trump the benefit of the doubt. I think he's been forced into this situation. I think he's trying to thread the needle, and I think that needle is rapidly closing because the Israelis are telling everybody. Because once again, Bibi lied within 48 hours. He went out and they said Iran has a nuke, and then he went on Brett Baer's like, it doesn't matter if they have one now, 6 months, 12 months. Whoa, you said they have one now. And Bibi's the one who told you that Iraq was going to be a prosperous nation after we bombed the crap out of them. But it is what it is in that regard. So if you don't want war, you're just a liberal wuss. You're just a wussy. So it's a shame. And I'm going to talk to Owen Schroyer after when I do my interview with him coming up in about 45 minutes. We're going to talk about the MAGA Civil War. We're going to talk about these two topics, and then I'll drop that interview on Friday, and it'll be available as well as others. So I'd rather be a wuss. I will live and die by the Mel Gibson position in The Patriot. I will live and die by that position. You petition again and again and again. Everybody who wants war, their kids will not be going to war. It's that simple.